Good evening, I'm Sav Jonza and welcome to APTN National News Weekend. It was an emotional day in a packed Winnipeg courtroom earlier this week as two Anishinaabe men convicted of murder 50 years ago were declared innocent. King's Bench Chief Justice Glenn Joyal told Brian Anderson and Alan A.J. Woodhouse they were innocent and deserved an apology. He cited systemic and individual racism in the men's convictions for the 1974 murder of Ting Fong Chan in downtown Winnipeg. Innocence Canada lawyers Jerome Kennedy and James Lockyer represented the pair. Anderson and Woodhouse spoke to reporters gathered outside the court.
When I was taking the stand, you know, the system in itself, the way it is written really well. It's just the practice of it, that's where we fail. And I think the judge covered that area also when he said that we are human, but that was also an excuse because we claim to be, or at least we pursue to be perfect when we fail because we don't want to pursue that area, or else we don't want to admit we could be wrong.
Well, life, like, you know, I want to live too, but I need to be free, have a happy life. I have a good family, people support me, and that's where it's at. So, life is good.
The men's lawyers held a press conference following the decision, calling for changes in how the justice system treats Indigenous peoples. Tamara Pimentel has more.
Well, I feel free.
After 50 years of being wrongfully convicted, Brian Anderson and Alan Woodhouse are free. Following the acquittal of the two men, they were joined with Innocence Canada and Indigenous leadership at a press conference today to call for change in the Canadian justice system.
We waste our time behind bars for the things that you didn't do. We got to stop that.
Lawyer James Lockyer with Innocence Canada says similar cases are underway.
Very concerned that there are other Indigenous people in jail, just as they were, whether it's because they falsely confessed under abuse by the police, or whether they were convicted through other forms of racism. There's really no doubt that there are other Indigenous in our jails.
Anderson and Woodhouse were teenagers when they were arrested and charged in the 1974 death of Ting Fong Chan in Winnipeg. Now in their 60s, they said police threatened and intimidated them into signing false confessions. Language was also a barrier, according to lawyer Jerome Kennedy.
Not only did they not have the opportunity to speak in their own language or be provided with interpreters, they testified at trial in English.
The case hits home for Manitoba Regional Chief Cindy Woodhouse. She's from the same community as Alan Woodhouse, and she says all levels of government need to work with Indigenous people to create real change.
Change will not come without action. Change will not come without First Nations people front and center, leading the change First Nations people need. We are the experts on systemic discrimination as we are the targets of it.
All advocates here say they will be seeking compensation for the two men.
No amount of money is gonna change this, but it will make the end of their lives easier.
Moving forward, Alan Woodhouse says it won't be easy adapting to life outside of prison, but has advice for anyone who is currently serving time while innocent.
We are free people. We are people of our own, but we have to claim our own freedom. We got to do it ourselves. Nobody's going to come and hand it to us. The justice system needs to change.
Tamara Pimentel, APTN National News, Winnipeg.
The Ontario Provincial Police says a video that appears to show a police officer punching a woman repeatedly, kicking her and then tasing her twice while she is lying on the ground, captures only a portion of the event. The incident, caught on camera, happened on July 10th in Sioux Lookout, Ontario. The OPP acknowledged the video in a press release on Tuesday and said the officer used, quote, the most appropriate use of force option to address the immediate situation, exposing the subject, public, and officer to the lowest level of risk. The 23-year-old First Nation woman has been charged with assault with intent to resist arrest, APTN News has spoken with her family, and you can read much more about this story on our website, aptnnews.ca.
She got tased.
A young firefighter lost his life while battling a blaze near his home community of Fort Liard. While details are still emerging, the young man's father says his son died doing what he loved. Here's Sarah Connors with that story.
At 25 years old, Adam Yeadon had accomplished much in his life. For those who knew him, his biggest achievement was being a father to his 2-year-old daughter.
My last sighting of Adam and Kiana, Adam was pushing this little baby down the road in his stroller right here in front of the house.
The Atcho Dinnick member died Saturday while battling a forest fire near his community of Fort Liard, close to the BC border. His father remembers him as a loving person who was passionate about his work as a woodland firefighter.
That was Adam's focus. That was Adam's way of knowing he was helping out.
Yeadon is the second woodland firefighter to die in just a matter of days following the death of 19-year-old Devin Gale near Revelstoke, BC. While officials have yet to confirm Yeadon's identity or his cause of death, his father says he was told a tree had likely fallen on him while he was using a chainsaw.
They confirmed for me that he did not see it coming, which means the tree or whatever was coming from behind him.
As tributes to the fallen firefighter continue to roll out from across the country, his father says he wants people to know his son died with happiness and peace in his heart.
Adam was thrilled with his life and the things that he did.
Sarah Connors, APTN National News, Whitehorse.
We're going to take a quick break now, but stick around. We have more on the calls for a Winnipeg landfill search next. Welcome back. The blockade on the road to Winnipeg's Brady landfill was taken down this week. It went up 2 weeks ago after the Manitoba government announced it will not support a search of landfills for the remains of missing and murdered Indigenous women. Tamara Pimentel has more.
Elder Geraldine Shingu smudges a red dress mural painted on the road to the Brady landfill. It's where a blockade stood moments before.
They just come in and sweep everything away. But they didn't sweep away all our prayers. They didn't sweep away all our voices or our way. We're still going to carry on.
The city of Winnipeg removed the blockade Tuesday morning in response to an injunction order that was granted last week. Inspector Gord Spado with Winnipeg Police says it was done in a peaceful way.
Protesters removed things they wanted to keep off of the roadway, and that allowed the city to come in and assist us in removing the material that was still blocking the road.
Protesters had been blocking the road for 2 weeks after Manitoba's Premier Heather Stephenson made the decision to not search the Brady or Prairie Green landfills. It is believed that Morgan Harris, Mercedes Myron, and Buffalo Woman can be in either landfill. At a press conference on Monday, experts told the media that a search is feasible and has been done many times before. And those calling on a search say it isn't over. Derek Nepenak is chief of Pine Creek First Nation and a cousin to Tanya Nepenak, whose remains may also be in the Brady landfill. She went missing in 2011. Police believe she was killed by an alleged serial killer.
For a very long time, we've been witnessing our loved ones ending up in this dump. And it's heartbreaking and it's tragic. And oftentimes we don't have the words to even speak about the violence that we witness in our lives day to day.
A camp called Camp Morgan will remain standing near the Brady landfill, and a new one is expected to be set up outside the Canadian Museum for Human Rights in Winnipeg, and that will be called Camp Mercedes. Before allowing the city to sweep up debris from the blockade, Shingoose held a pipe ceremony to bring closure.
We need to continue their voice, bring their voice, because they want to go home. They want their families to take them home and rest. Like they deserve a proper burial.
Tamara Pimentel, APTN National News, Winnipeg.
Protesters demanding a search for their loved ones' remains at a Winnipeg area landfill have found a welcoming new site for a camp. The Canadian Human Rights Museum grounds are a site of Camp Mercedes, named after one of the alleged victims of an accused serial killer. Jordan Myron, Mercedes Myron's sister, says the museum reached out to protesters who have been manning Camp Morgan, named for another alleged victim, Morgan Harris. A barrier put up on the road leading to the Brady Road landfill was dismantled Tuesday after the city secured a temporary injunction Friday, but Camp Morgan remains at the landfill. Jordan Myron says the new camp is important to her family.
So we wanted to set up a second camp to, first of all, keep my sister's spirit alive in her name. It's a human rights problem, so we're at the Human Rights Museum. That's one thing. And then also there's lots of traffic that goes through here, so we're hoping to shine more light on the big problem here and what we're fighting for.
Myron says the museum is providing security at the camp, and they're prepared to stay until the landfills are searched. The man charged in Mercedes Myron's homicide and that of 3 other women is going to trial in September. A conference that brings together global players in the liquid natural gas industry wrapped up in Vancouver recently. APTN's Tina House was there to see how Indigenous nations are playing a role in this burgeoning economy.
Over 15,000 delegates from around the world gathered in Vancouver to discuss the economic opportunities for liquefied natural gas, otherwise known as LNG. Mel Idrios is the executive director of LNG 2023. He says this event has attracted the top players in LNG, and he's excited to watch deals being brokered.
The world needs more LNG, particularly to ensure energy security, affordability, and they want Canadian gas. They want Canadian LNG because they know that it is the most responsibly produced LNG in the world.
Idrios points to LNG Canada and their massive project currently being built in Kitimat, BC, which when complete will accommodate supertankers bound for Asian markets. And Indigenous nations are benefiting with over $4.5 billion given out in contracts with that one project.
1, 2, 3.
The Nisga'a Nation is also hoping to benefit from the proposed LNG economy. They have partnered with Rockies LNG and Western LNG to build a floating facility just north of Prince Rupert in their territory. If approved, it would deliver 12 million tons of LNG yearly to Asian markets.
Economically, for the nation, it's going to bring not only prosperity, it's not only going to build our economy. Our economy is basically non-existent other than tourism. For many years, Indigenous people have been on the wayside watching development of our lands. The Nisga'a Nation is excited to be involved. We took a deep dive into the project. We are work diligently with our team, so it's going to mean a lot because it's going to be Indigenous driven.
However, Joe Foy from the Wilderness Committee is not in support, saying LNG extraction contributes to climate change.
The industry, the companies essentially pump tons and tons, literally tons and tons of chemically laced water under high pressure underground to fracture the formations to force the gas out. And that ticking time bomb sits there underground for future generations to deal with. The whole world is faced with a need for money, but you know what? If we shared the money we have a little better, we wouldn't have to steal a future from our kids and our grandkids. And that's what this industry is doing.
Tina House, APTN National News, Vancouver.
Now an update on a story we recently brought you. McLeod Lake Indian Band has released a statement in response to reports that its forestry company has clear-cut up to 90% of its treaty lands. We reported nearly 2 million cubic meters of forest, worth $140 million, was logged over a 10-year period. Over half of this logging occurred in 2019. McLeod Lake Chief Harley Chingy writes he's outraged at what he called unfair and lazy coverage. He says $137 million has been dedicated to the band and that a pine beetle infestation left them no choice but to clear cut. Chief Chingy turned down our requests for an interview. Halifax was full of energy as the North American Indigenous Games kicked off this week. We'll look at some of the highlights after the break. Welcome back. It's been a whirlwind week at the North American Indigenous Games in Halifax. 14-year-old Wolf Ross's journey to NAG didn't get off to a good start because it began with a trip to the emergency room and 2 days in hospital. But Angel Moore reports Ross's story has a golden finish.
Wolf Ross gives no indication he was in the hospital for 2 days, winning a gold medal in javelin for Team Saskatchewan. The doctors told Ross he should not compete.
It just kind of sucked that I couldn't play. They told me I couldn't play.
Sunday night, Ross was rushed to the hospital with severe stomach pains, where he was treated for appendicitis. Coach J.C. Brass thought Ross was out of the game.
I was definitely worried, and because he was asking me, when's javelin? And I said, it's Wednesday. And he's like, am I going to throw? I said, right now, let's just try to get healthy.
Determined to compete with doctors' approval, Ross was back in the javelin competition the day after being released from the hospital. Brass says that determination won the gold medal.
Sure enough, I don't know, he went in full recovery mode and just like healed twice as fast, and he's here and got gold. So it's amazing in the North American Indigenous Games.
Ross's golden javelin throw was over 141 feet. Brass says Ross is a legend.
It's so, it's surreal. It's literally, it brings makes you teary-eyed, like a lot of joy. I was having a hard time. I'm trying to stay solid, and but it gives you so much joy as a coach to see him throw farther and farther. It's awesome.
Ross also won silver in discus, over 80 feet. Angel Moore, APTN National News, Jabuktuk, also known as Halifax.
The swimming competitions began Wednesday at Dalhousie University. Various events were happening throughout the week. Our Daryl Stranger has more from the pool.
Swimmers from across Turtle Island were making waves in the Dalplex pool at Dalhousie University. It was non-stop action as race after race, swimmers vied for the best time in many events. One of the swimmers competing was the lone representative from California, Maya Heidig.
Team California!
Heidig received some of the loudest cheers at the opening ceremonies alongside her mom and dad, and has made quick friends with some of the Wisconsin athletes.
I don't know what I would do without them. This is my first time here, and I was so excited to come here, and I'm having a blast.
For Wisconsin swimmer Abby Winnicke, she's been waiting a long time to finally participate in these games.
Personally, it's really exciting because we've waited 6 years. I was supposed to get 2 games actually, so I'm making the best out of my 1 games, and it's really excited to finally be here after waiting 6 years.
Allison Giroux has participated in a NAG before, but not one of this size.
Well, this is my second games. It's very exciting. It's awesome to be here again, especially with all these other teams. Last time in Toronto, Toronto, there was only 3 teams, so it's very exciting.
15-year-old Heidig from the Piapot First Nation in Saskatchewan says competing against older competition can be a challenge.
Sometimes it's really intimidating, but it just gotta be faster than them.
For the Wisconsin swimmers, everyone has been welcoming.
Everyone's kind of in their own niche, I guess. So they're like, oh yeah, good luck when you're up at the blocks, and they're like, oh, good job. And yeah, everyone's very inclusive and it's fun.
I think for me it's been fun just meeting people from other states and other Indigenous athletes. It's been a really cool aspect And even like for Wisconsin, we have a huge team, and so just meeting people like you don't even know and they're from your state is super fun. And I think pin trading has been super fun.
Daryl Stranger, APTN National News, Jabuktuk, also known as Halifax.
One of the traditional sports at NAG is archery, and one Mi'kmaq community is hosting it, the Millbrook First Nation. As Angel Moore reports, Tuesday's event kicked off with the first shot aimed into a stuffed bison.
The first shot of the games, Mr. Vernon Globe.
That's Vernon Glode of the Millbrook First Nation taking the first shot to open the NAG 3D Archery. Glode manages the archery course and is excited to welcome the athletes.
It's the Super Bowl, that's what it is. It's something we've all dreamed of around here, so we put a lot of hours into it, and something I've been doing since I was a kid and just had a passion for,
After welcoming speeches at the powwow grounds and a little rain, athletes under 16 and under 19 years old warmed up on the shooting range. Wasea Monroe Soldier is 14 years old. She's on Team Manitoba and is ready to compete.
It's been going really good, and I'm excited to shoot because I've been waiting to shoot at NAG for 3 years.
The archery competition consists of 20 targets, which are stuffed animals, such as a bison, hidden in the woods. Spectators are allowed at one spot, which is not in the woods. Jill Claus of the Haudenosaunee Confederation is here to support her daughter and is a guest in Mi'kmaq territory.
I've been very welcomed. It's so nice to see the level of appreciation for our language and to bringing it into everyday play and everyday conversation.
Back at the powwow grounds, Coach Welsie C. Thomas of the Haudenosaunee Confederacy helps out an athlete. Thomas says archery is more than a sport.
It teaches them patience, and it's not a race. A lot of people, they get up there and right away they don't even get to their anchor and right away they're shooting. And then they get hurt. Then they throw the bow down, they quit. That's where your patience comes in.
Glode is happy with the turnout and hopes the traditional game of archery is carried on.
So I'm glad that I have a lot of young people I inspired to keep it going. So hopefully when I'm, head off to the spirit world, there'll be people behind me to pick it up and keep going.
Finals are Friday with the bronze and gold medal matches. Angel Moore, APTN National News, Millbrook First Nation.
That's all we have for your APTN National News this weekend. Thanks so much for sharing your time with us today, and have a great weekend.